Happy Monday, Jamal. Happy Tuesday for you guys watching. It's another Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast. We only have half of the crew here, but it's all right. We'll make it work. We got the best tandem around. We'll put it like that.
Yes, sir.
Hopefully we don't stay too long. I want my man, Jamal Madni. Jamal, how are you doing this evening?
Doing well, Fred. Always great to be with you, and this is going to be fun. It's more intimate, you know. We miss Ryan and Candace always, but always a pleasure when there's some one-on-one time with the coach.
Yeah. So this is how I break it down with each one of you guys. Like, so with Ryan, I know it's going to be more of a statistical roster, like SC, like in depth, because like that's his. Everybody has their strengths, right? And that's his strength. Like he could tell you number 0 all the way to number 99 with no problem. With Candace, we're gonna talk like culture, odds and ends, like what they need to do and what SC is really about, right? With you, it's more of a you, and I say this all the time, like you make me bring my A game, because even if I'm right, I have to prove to you that I'm right. You know what I mean? Like, you really make me think. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. Like, I appreciate you for that. You know what I mean? So I really have to think today. This is going to be a very in-depth conversation. But I love being with you. I love doing everything we have to do. I love my Salute to Troy podcast team. And we're going to get rolling in this. So before we start, you wanted to lead the show off. You want to get into that right now, or do you want to?
Yeah, sure, Fred. I mean, if I appreciate that. You know, I wanted to address some of the comments in the last show, and obviously I love our fans so much, and they're super engaged with everything. And I think, unfortunately, in this Victory Bell week, we got a chance to sort of record here at the LAFB lounge with all the SC guys, all the UCLA guys together. And unfortunately, that footage wasn't kind of technically sound enough for us to be able to publish it, so folks could kind of see all of the camaraderie and the fun between, the USC and UCLA teams. And, obviously our fans are so engaged and always grateful for them. I wanted to address just, 3 or 4 comments from the last show about, me kind of being a traitor and sort of betraying USC in terms of kind of my analysis for UCLA and whatnot, and kind of not being a true Trojan and whatnot. And so I just wanted to kind of address that with the fans, for the fans that may not know, and for me, I have a deep love for both schools. And Fred, this, and Ryan knows this, and Candace knows this. Undergrad, I went to USC and had, the best 4 years of my life. Graduate school in engineering, I went to UCLA, and that was such a special experience. And then I went to business school later in life to Stanford. So I have 3 alma maters. I love all 3 of my alma maters. They all mean a lot to me. You always joke with me all the time that I have 30 alma maters, but it's only 3. But they all
every school on the West Coast, every
yes, except for Cal. That's the one that's missing right now. But those are the 3 that have meant so much to me, and I have all 3. And I think sometimes where it gets a little awkward sometimes is rivalry week with the Victory Bell when it is SC versus UCLA, because they are rivals. And, I think oftentimes people feel like to love one, you have to hate the other. And for me, it's just not the case. I have enough room in my heart to love both of these schools, and they both meant a lot to me. And so, obviously very transparently with our audience, I want to build a culture of trust and transparency and engagement with our viewers. And I want them to know who I am as a person. And both schools mean a tremendous amount to me. Fred, this. My wife made a Letterman's jacket for me that I only wear once a year, which is half USC, half UCLA. I only wear it once a year. I wear it to the games to show kind of both sides of the universities that have both meant so much to me. So I know there was some conversation around me kind of celebrating the UCLA win. And, this is always kind of a tough week for me in particular, because half of me is always very happy and the other half is always very sad, regardless of how it shakes out. So I just wanted to share that, both schools mean a lot to me. This show means a ton to me. Salute to Troy. I'm also on the LAFB Network's Brew and Bible, and I do both. And, giving top-notch analysis for one school doesn't detriment any sort of analysis for another school, and my love for one doesn't impact my love for the other. I just like to call it like I see it. And the second thing I want to point out is just my expectations for USC football are very high. And, Fred, I think you and I share that similarity in great detail. I went to USC from 2002 to 2006. I mean, you're talking about peak Pete Carroll era. 02 to 06 was Carson's Heisman year. And then, the run for the three-peat. I mean, in 4 years, USC was 48-4, won 3 Heisman trophies, 2 national championships, and was 1 play away in that Texas USC Rose Bowl from going 49-3, and not just being the greatest 4-year run in USC football history, but the greatest 4-year run in college football history. And so that's where I'm coming from, and that game still hurts. That Texas USC game, so many different moments there. Ting brothers could have caught an interception. They didn't have Vince's knee was down. The Landale's 2 yards. All of these different moments.
The throwback innings was a fumble.
Yeah, absolutely. The Reggie lateral, unfortunately, all of those things, were kind of 1 play away from just bookending it. Those are my 4 years, and so I have a very high level of expectation for USC football. And then third, I'm always going to call it like I see it, Fred, no matter what, no matter who the player is or the coach is, no matter what the team is. And for me, quite honestly, in this 2023 season and in this game, I didn't think USC had respect for the rivalry. I didn't think USC had respect for each other. I didn't think the players had respect for their program. And I think that really fell on 2 individuals in particular. One being Lincoln Riley as the coach, and the other being Caleb Williams being the star quarterback. And you have to sort of bring it as the leaders, as the guys that everyone is looking to, as the guys that are the highest paid on the team. And so, my criticisms of both Caleb and Lincoln, I stand by that, that they didn't really bring it and they wanted to mail it in. And unfortunately with Caleb, it just has never felt like he's loved USC the way Matt Leinart has, the way Matt Barkley has, the way Lendale White has, Keyshawn Johnson, Frosty Rucker, and on the list he goes. And so if that is the situation, obviously he's had a decorated career. I've said it time and again, the best player in college football the last 2 years. But if you don't have a love for the place that you're at, maybe it is best for both parties to move on and go to the next step. And for Lincoln Riley, he needs to learn what it means to be a USC Trojan. I think he's still learning that, and I think there's still an opportunity for him to grow. So I just wanted to kind of share that with the fans. And I know some of the fans thought I was a little rough on Caleb, and I understand that. He's still only a 21, 22-year-old kid. So if that was a little too rough, I get that, and I want to apologize to the fans if that came off as kind of bullying someone who was much younger than me. So that's certainly not what I'm about. But I'm going to hold Lincoln to a very high standard. I'm going to hold Caleb to a very high standard, and that's why I'm on this show. So I just wanted to kind of start with that, Fred, because loyalty means so much to me. I've built my whole life on loyalty in terms of my friendships, my relationships, my career. So when fans kind of say, hey, he's disloyal or he betrayed us or, I don't want to watch the show because he's on it because he's not a true Trojan. I just want the fans to know that, hey, we're human, and that one cuts deep, and so that's not one that I want to sort of represent. You want to call me an idiot, you want to call me a moron, go for it. That's the fun of this. At the end of the day, this is college football, this is entertainment, and it's all in the name of the fun of the game. This isn't a war in Ukraine, this isn't Israel Palestine, this isn't education or healthcare or homelessness or racism. In many ways, this show is an escape from all of that. So have all your fun with me. But I just wanted to share that, that those kind of cut deep because I do love USC very, very deeply, as I do love UCLA very, very deeply, as I do love Stanford very, very deeply. I'm a very proud Trojan. I'm a very proud Bruin. I'm a very proud Cardinal. So I just wanted to start with that, Fred, and thanks for allowing me the time.
Yeah, no problem. So I just can't believe you're a proud Cardinal. I don't know how anybody can be a proud Cardinal. But like I said earlier, and I didn't mean it. I didn't mean to send you that I sent it earlier, that comment earlier to you as a joke. I thought it was funny because I know the background of it. I know how you feel about USC and like you're one of the people, Candace too, hold me to the standard, right? Because there's times where I way off like, hey, we're getting good, and he's like, like you told me, we powder Kayla's butt way too much, and then
Right,
like,
exactly, and
now
it's true.
yeah, it was true, yeah, it was. So like, no, it's what people don't understand when the blood pumps out the left side of your heart, that's the oxygenated blood that you're sending to the rest of your body, right? That's the brewing part. It goes, but when it comes back, that's the cardinal gold part on the right side. So I know where your heart lies, and I'm not worried about it. So everybody, Jamal is one of us. He spent 4 years in at USC. You know what I mean? So he's a Trojan. We love him, man. I love him. We built a great friendship over the 2 years.
Absolutely, Fred.
Like
I consider you a great friend, and it's just been such a joy.
Yep. So if you guys want to see some trash talking, you guys should see our text messages and what we have in the Slack. what he gives us on here is very, 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 very PG. We get some good trash talking going. It's all good.
And Fred, you return the favor beautifully as well. And that's what I love about our dynamic. I mean, it's all in good fun. Absolutely.
I even wore bear for you today. There you go. I just realized that. I was like, when I sat down, I was like, oh, I hope the bear doesn't show because he's gonna give me, because I wore the blue shirt on Wednesday, and I got blamed. Just to let you guys know, I got blamed for the SC loss through all out of LAFB, because when we did the live show in the LAFB lounge, I wore a powder blue shirt, and Jamal was like, the win. Fred's telling us is going to win. He has the right color on. I didn't even realize
preordained. That's what happened over there.
So I got a lot of slack for that. So Jamal, appreciate you. You know I love you, man. We gonna keep moving on. You ain't going nowhere. So and I just want to say this. This is the one thing that you guys always comment about as fans. You guys say we tell it like it is, and we tell the truth, right? So we're gonna keep telling it like it is, and we're gonna keep telling the truth, and we're gonna keep doing what we're doing. Like, we see different things from different angles and different perspectives, and once again, we appreciate you guys. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Jamal is what makes us who we are. You know what I mean? Like, without Jamal, it's not what we are. Like, we're a group. We all love each other. You guys see me in the live protect Candace. I'll protect Candace. You know what I mean? And I feel the same way about Jamal and Ryan. So now that we got that out the way, I want to let you guys know Monday Night Football's on. Thanksgiving's coming. If you want to put your bets in for those Thanksgiving games, we got the Cowboys Commanders. We got the 49ers and the Seahawks. That's going to be a good one.
Yes, sir.
I don't even remember the morning game. That one's not even that important. But if you want to get your money in on it, get your early Christmas gifts, go to Bet Online. They have all the up-to-the-minute lines, stats, and wagers. You put in promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV. We will receive a 50% welcome bonus. That's betonline.ag. So before we started recording, my man Jamal told me about something that hit the news today, about a guy that I do not like at all. I don't know if I could say that, and Ryan, if I apologize.
You got to land the plane, Fred. You got to land the plane.
I just don't. People call him an analyst and all this and all that, but like, he got famous for snitching because somebody made a prank and said that they poisoned the tree in Alabama or something like that, and he called the police and everything. That's his claim to fame. And then ESPN hopped on it and took it, and I'm not a fan of him. So today he got after our coach, right? So let me explain something to everyone. I don't like UCLA, but I will protect UCLA because UCLA is our little brother. He's in our conference, and I'm happy UCLA is going to the Big Ten with us, right? Same thing with all the conference. I will protect the conference. We love the fact that the Pac-12 is at the top, and we want to see everybody succeed in the Pac-12. But when we're playing with each other, we don't like each other, but we have this unity. When somebody outside the conference talks bad about the conference, we all come together. We all band together. So our man Paul Finebaum decided to talk bad about our head coach. We talk bad about Lincoln Riley because our expectations are through the roof. We have high expectations, right? And like we said, like, for football at USC, it's national championship or bust. Like, it's at least college playoff, right? Same basketball at UCLA, Final Four or bust, right? Like, that's the goal. We understand Lincoln Riley had a bad year, and we're going to take care of that. That's our job as Trojan fans and our Sooner fans also to make sure we know that Lincoln Riley had a bad year. But for somebody who is, I guess you could say, not very skilled or does not have a trained eye to come and speak about Lincoln Riley, that upsets me. And so before we get into it, I want to show you guys what he said and let you guys know, because we're getting better here at LAFB, and the only reason why we're getting better is because of the fans. So I'm gonna go ahead and play a little bit of this clip here from our guy, and then we're going to talk about it.
With one of the best quarterbacks we've seen in college, they got absolutely pummeled this week and pretty much the rest of the back half of the season. What a disaster for Lincoln Riley in year 2.
I don't know when I've seen a worse coaching job by anyone than Lincoln Riley this year. It's a complete disaster, and quite frankly, he ought to pack up. I don't.
So we're going to start there, Jamal. We're just going to go clip by clip. So Lincoln Riley ought to pack up. And so we got upset because he's like, now I'm motivated. And I'm going to explain why we were upset, because he said, now I'm motivated. You should have been motivated last year, because this was your opportunity to be at a university that's going to give you every single resource you need to become a national champion. That's why we're upset. For him, for Paul Finebaum to say, pack it up. So basically he's saying, you should just quit on the job now. Like, you should quit and just give it up because you're not good enough. I don't think that's the case, and that's the worst advice you could give as an analyst, right? Or am I wrong?
No, absolutely, Fred. Look, we haven't sugarcoated it. He's had a really tough year. He's had a pretty poor coaching year. I think it was a mistake to bring Alex Grinch back for year 2. And he's now in a position where he's 7-5 this year, 18-8 overall, and 7-7 in his last 14 games. I mean, there's no sugarcoating that the honeymoon period here with Lincoln is over. He's got to really produce in year 3 to sort of justify this $100 million contract and really sort of bring home the expectations that he promised. However, to say that he needs to pack up and leave right now is an unfair statement. This is still a situation where this team is very inept in the trenches on both sides of the ball. I think everyone talks about year 3 as being the year where the elite coaches put it all together. And look, if we're having this conversation 2 years from now, after year 4, where he comes off a 5-loss season, I think that's a very fair statement to say, hey, is this guy really the long-term solution? But to do it after year 2 is still very premature. And to your point, Fred, it's also a situation where Finebaum is kind of a national guy. He's looking at things from afar. I don't even know how many USC games this guy's watched at any point this year. He's probably looked at a few highlights. So it's one of those things where, I mean, it was a similar conversation. A lot of national pundits kind of got involved in the chip conversation, Fred. We talked about that last week. So, it's always kind of interesting and sensitive when, non-local folks who are sort of in the day-to-day of these teams and are kind of looking at things from a national standpoint come in with sort of such hard takes. So I think Finebaum, 2 years, you got to give this guy some more time here. He's still 18-8. He still went 11-3 the first year after a 4-8 year the following year, 7-game turnaround. But now that honeymoon period is over. All that goodwill that he got from year 1, he kind of lost in year 2. And so now year 3 is a really kind of a big make it or break it year.
Yep. So let's continue.
I don't know. I don't really see what his path is moving forward. He blamed everything on Alex Grinch. They haven't been any better.
So let's address that comment. He blamed everything on Alex Grinch. And now that addresses your point. You're looking at this from I have and project management. So there's project engineers, project managers, and then the project executive who overlooks the whole project. So our project executive always says, we're looking at this from a 3,000 foot view. We want to look at the whole picture. Or he always says, let's look at the macro. Let's not look at the micro. Let's look at the macro. This right here is a macro statement, right? Nobody, never in the history of Lincoln Riley has he ever blamed Alex Grinch, right? And I'm the one, and a lot of people think I'm crazy, and you guys might not believe me, but I'm the one that still thinks that Lincoln Riley would return next year if he was not forced to fire Alex Grinch. Lincoln Riley will bring Alex Grinch back next year if he was not forced to fire him. right? And you know, I always say it's that weird air raid thing, like there's friends, they're so tight knit. Like for him to say that is like you're officially unaware. Like you said, you're a national analyst on a national TV network that millions and millions of people watch it. For you to make that statement means that you're uneducated, right? He never once blamed Alex Grinch. He always said we got to get better. He never came out and threw Alex Grinch under the bus, and he was hurt when he had to fire him, right? We saw that, and because that's the one that pissed us off when we were talking about it, like, come on, man. So, like,
yeah,
God,
Fred, I mean, to your
doing?
point, I mean, if anything, he was, too soft on Alex Grinch, right? I mean, if anything, he needed to sort of recognize that this was the problem at the end of last year. So when Finebaum is saying, well, he fired Alex Grinch as some sort of scapegoat, it's actually totally 180 degrees. I mean, he's getting criticized for his lack of judgment and not doing it sooner rather than his lack of judgment and doing it at that point as though that would be some element of optics. It just, that Washington game defensively was just so bad. There was really no choice moving forward. So, again, it just shows kind of a lack of domain knowledge, Fred. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Even worse. I mean, maybe Lincoln, you ought to look in the mirror. Maybe you're just a total fraud as a coach. Maybe you just lived off of a couple of Heisman Heisman winners, and what Oklahoma did for you, and all the people in Oklahoma who are heartbroken.
Heisman winners don't create themselves. You know what I mean? Like Heisman winners don't create themselves. Like here's the best example I could give you: Drake May. Drake May's Heisman candidate has been a Heisman candidate for a very long time. You put Drake May at USC, he may win the Heisman. You know what I mean? Here's the best example I could give you, and I was thinking about this. Cliff Kingsbury had Patrick Mahomes. I think if Lincoln Riley gets Patrick Mahomes is the Heisman winner. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of things like you're responsible for creating a Heisman. Like a Heisman, no 18-year-old kid is good at. How do I say this the right way? It's hard for an 18-year-old kid, and it's very rare for an 18-year-old kid to walk into college and be at that level as the rest of the college players. Zach Branch is very good, but he's not at the peak level yet. You get what I'm saying? When he gets stronger and faster, Zach Branch is a different being. Like for you to say, "Oh, you're living off those Heisman winners," yeah, because he made them. He created those Heisman winners. You know what I'm saying?
No, that's absolutely right, Fred. I mean, I think the criticism that's fair is to say, hey, has Lincoln Riley built a program from scratch? He was put in a really good situation with Bob Stoops, really established a very nice succession plan for him. The cupboard was really rich with a lot of toys. The next few recruiting classes were really set up nicely for success. And Lincoln was able to sort of walk through that door and be extremely successful, given kind of the war chest of toys and tools that he had at his disposal. I think the question now is at SC, can he rebuild a program from scratch and not just walk in there? And so I think those are the questions that the Trojan Nation and Trojan family has. But to say that he's living off of Heisman winners, I mean, from Baker Mayfield to Kyler Murray to obviously Caleb Williams, but then also Jalen Hurts. I mean, that's 4 quarterbacks that were Heisman finalists, 3 Heisman winners, and Jalen Hurts is doing exceptionally well in the NFL. So to say that he's living off of these Heisman winners as if to say they kind of did it themselves, it's completely inaccurate and not fair at all. Look, Lincoln is a terrific quarterback whisperer. We've said that. That's his strength. The question now moving forward is that enough? He needs more than just that to be a great head coach and a great program builder. But to say that he's living off of Heisman winners is completely unfair.
Yes, and I completely disagree with that.
2 years ago, and who never thought they'd get over that blow off. They're over it now because Lincoln Riley is nowhere near the coach that we all collectively tried to make him out to be. And have you ever seen a college season ruin more than
So off evidence, Sooner fans are not over it, and we love our Sooner fans. We love our Sooner fans. Sooner fans are not over it. And I will say this, and I'm going to defend our Sooner fans, even though this is a SC channel. And they all explain, like, they're not mad that he left. They are mad at the way that he left. Yep. Yes. right? And if I 100% agree with them, right? The way he did it was not culture. And that's one of the things that we always say. Like, he has a little bit of integrity issues. And like what you say, he has truth gaps.
Truth,
Like,
honesty gaps.
Yeah, he has honesty gaps when he talks. Like, there are some integrity issues with how he talks, but like, Sooner fans have every be right about the way that he left, right? If he would have did it in a kosher way, like, look, you guys, like, I'm gonna take this opportunity, I apologize, and then he leaves the next morning or 2 days later, makes sense. But when you sneak off in the middle of the night and you take all your staff with you, that's not a kosher way to do it. And so they were upset with the way how he left. And then, like, Caleb should have been up front too. But this is what I always say, even when I coach. College coaches are the last people that impacts you before you go into the real world, right? And this year was a great example of what we see out of Caleb. It's coming from Lincoln Riley. You know what I mean? So that impact on him. So Sooner fans aren't mad he left. Sooner fans are mad that he left. Not that he left, but the way that he left. You get what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Fred. And I think, look, I mean, we can't sugarcoat this. This season was a gargantuan disappointment. One of the biggest flameouts in USC history. I mean, the only comp here, Fred, is 2012, right? When Matt Barkley came back, and obviously the Marquise Lee, Robert Woods team, Curtis McNeil, they were preseason number one, started 6-1, and then ultimately finished 7-6 with a loss in the Sun Bowl. I mean, that was a team that was preseason number one, finished 7-6, completely crashed down. This team was number 6 preseason with the reigning Heisman winner, started 6-0, and now finished 7-5 with a bowl game left to play. So, I mean, it was a huge crash and burn here, no question about that. And I think we're all kind of struggling to understand, where do we go from here? But to say that, we don't think he can coach anymore, I mean, that's just taking it, a step too far.
Yeah. So, and then like, that's just example. Like, oh man, I'm gonna get killed for this. But how sheltered the SEC is. The SEC only worries about the SEC. Right. And they don't understand like the issues that's going on anywhere else. Right. Like, so like, and he's just a SEC guy, and he's never tried to reach out anywhere else. Like, so it's crazy for him to like just go out. He's not allowed to bash Lincoln Riley because he's not skilled enough to bash Lincoln Riley, and it's apparent from this interview. Let us handle that.
Exactly. Absolutely. Let us do that. Exactly.
Yeah. We haven't given up on Lincoln Riley yet. I remember somebody in the comments like, "You guys ready for Lincoln to be fired?" No, we're not ready for him to be fired, but we're on him. You got a lot to do, and you got a lot to come up with, and you got a lot to fix, and you need to fix it. Like, there's a lot of pressure. Like, you're at a school with the standard, and I understand Oklahoma has a standard, but to me, it just seems like it was so different, and maybe I'm missing it. You know what I mean? Maybe it's because he got there and he got the keys to Ferrari, right? And it just looks so good. But like, it just seems like, how was he able to do that at Oklahoma? And he's bringing the same thing here. And like, now you're seeing is like the culture is so bad. The text I sent you, they're showing up to the game and everybody has on different clothes. Those little things matter. Have on a travel suit. Even if you make them all wear suits, at least they all have on suits. If they all have on SC travel suits, they all have on SC. Those things matter and become a victorious program. And he's missed those things. You get what I'm saying, Jamal?
No, absolutely, Fred. Absolutely. And I think part of it is where the criticism is coming from in a more kind of spectacular fashion is, I think when he took the Oklahoma job, obviously he was Stoops' offensive coordinator. He was kind of the young prodigy, much in the way, we kind of think of Sean McVay here in LA as kind of the young prodigy. He sort of Stoops' prodigy, young kid, genius, boy wonder, keys to the kingdom. And I think he said, hey, I'm taking the greatness of this program. Remember, they were just coming off of a playoff appearance themselves when he, in Stoops' last year, and just keep it in humming. Here he comes in and says, look, this program has been down. I know what this program can be. This is going to be the mecca of college football. We're going to compete for championships right away. We're going to do X, Y, and Z things. Year one is going to be my least talented team ever. So there's all of these things that he's saying to sort of build those expectations. And then when you don't deliver on those expectations, that's when there's going to be, you have to sort of be accountable for the things that you said. And so I think that's where there's a lot of discrepancy. And Fred, I'll be honest with you. Look, I think this notion that his seat, that he's in danger of getting fired is way, way far. But the seat's warm, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not piping hot, but it's not cool either. I mean, when you come off of a 7-5 and you're 7-7 in your last 14, let's not sugarcoat it. The seat's warm, okay? It's getting nice and toasty in the tush. Let's put it that way, going into year 3.
Yeah. So, and and I mentioned this before. So the best example I could give you is Jimbo Fisher, right? And so SC has that ability, right? And I'm not saying they will do it. They are more patient than most. You get what I'm saying?
For sure.
SC has that ability to where yeah, we got to make this change and we need to figure it out. There will be a check on the field and his wife will see it and oh man, we know what that check is for. SC has that ability to cut the check. So I don't think he needs to be comfortable. He needs to get comfortable with being uncomfortable right now and take a lesson from this season. Lessons learned. You know what I mean? Get better with these losses. Get better. You lost the season. And then when you go and look back at it and be like, man, you know what? I completely lost my second year. I lost everything my second year, and I'm never going to have that again. So when you see those things from your second year, you're like, nope, we're starting to go down that path. We need to deter from it. We need to fix it. And I think, I don't know, and maybe correct me if I'm wrong. I think there needs to be a cap on what players should get paid right now. You know what I mean? I think that should be a thing earned and not given. If that makes sense, because we saw what it did to Caleb. I think that has a lot to do with it also.
Yeah, no, Fred, I think you're spot on there. I think that you could tell the power dynamic was a little bit different this year. And we talk a lot about the body language being subpar on the sideline. But last year, if you look on the sideline, it's a lot of Caleb listening to Lincoln Riley on the sideline. Caleb's listening. He's hungry. You could tell Lincoln Riley was the coach and Caleb was the quarterback. This year, if you look at the sideline, the power dynamic completely shifted. It was more Lincoln Riley listening to Caleb. And sort of looking back, you're like, well, who's the coach and who's the player? Who's really running things? Fred, when I would watch Lincoln Riley and Caleb this year, I'm reminded of that famous Seinfeld joke from many years ago where he says, if there's aliens in outer space with giant telescopes and they're looking and observing Earth and they're watching people walk their dogs, and pick up the poop of their dogs, they're going to see one life form walking around and pooping all over the place and having a great time, and another life form actually holding the poop. And they're going to be wondering who's actually in charge here. Okay, and so that's kind of how I felt this year with USC. Who's really in charge here? Because every time you saw Lincoln and Caleb on the sideline, it felt like Lincoln was in deference to Caleb, and the power dynamic had really shifted.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I started to see that a lot last year when Caleb was leaving off plays and kind of getting upset with when Caleb knew he won the Heisman. He started to get above himself. And so, it was kind of like that Kobe Bryant syndrome or Michael Jordan syndrome. Phil Jackson let Kobe and Michael draw plays. But there was a difference between Kobe and Michael. You know what I mean? Kobe and Michael are the upper echelon of NBA. Caleb is not the upper echelon of college football. He may be the best player, and just hear me out. He may be the best player this year, but when you look at the overall history of college football,
right.
I don't even think Caleb makes the top 20 in quarterbacks. You know what I mean? You get what I'm saying? This year he's one of the best, right? But this could be one of the years where the past 2 years he could be forgotten, right? Here's a good example. You remember Eric Crouch?
Yep.
Eric Crouch was one of the best, but people don't remember Eric Crouch.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Heisman Trophy winner, and so I think
it's one of those things, Fred, that it's funny that how the individual of the moment. When to your point, you're 100% right. When you look 4, 5, 6 years from now, you're like, it's hard to remember. I mean, think of the great Reggie Bush, right? I mean, the most electric, iconic player really in the history of modern college football. When you look back and you think of Reggie, there's like two plays that come to mind, right? There's the Fresno State game where he's got the ball behind his back when he sort of cuts it across the field, and then the Bush push, right? I mean, and so for a player as great and as decorated and as electric as Reggie Bush was, you sort of reduce him down to 2 or 3 plays because it's been 15, 17, 18 years since he's played. So if for a player that had as many highlights as Reggie Bush did, and you get him down to 2 plays, look, I'll be honest with you. I don't think we're really going to remember much of Caleb Williams 5 years from now from a USC standpoint, other than, hey, 13 is hanging in the collie. He won the Heisman. But I don't know if there's sort of individual moments or games that you'll remember. There may be a few individual moments here and there, but at the end of the day, and this is sort of the blessing and the curse of his career, he never really won a big game, right? I mean, there was never really a top 15 victory there. When you say, okay, what was Caleb Williams' best win of his career? Okay, maybe at UCLA, maybe the home game against Notre Dame last year, maybe at Oregon State. But when you start sort of breaking that down, the at Oregon State game, that was a 17-14 game, where it was a struggle up until the very end with Addison. The UCLA game, man, that was kind of, Jordan Addison kind of really separating himself. And then when you look at the Notre Dame game, that was a 3-loss Notre Dame team. Yes, 15th, 16th in the country, but, where was that sort of marquee game, marquee win? So, history is very unforgiving. And as Charles Barkley says, Father Time is undefeated. I really wonder how we sort of think about him moving forward 5 years from now. That's not to say that he didn't, wasn't a statistical gem here these last 2 years. But when you don't win the championship, when you don't have sort of an iconic moment, history forgets you. Fred, you're talking about Eric Crouch. What about Jason White at Oklahoma? What about Sam Bradford at Oklahoma? On and on the list goes. What about Troy Smith from Ohio State?
What about Troy Smith? Yeah.
What about Danny Werfel from Florida, right? Yeah. I mean, on and on the list we can go. I mean, even a Ron Dane at Wisconsin to a certain extent, so all of these guys were absolutely amazing, absolutely epic. But what do you really remember, about them? Time sort of moves on.
Yeah, definitely. So I'm a flip real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and defend Caleb. And then we could wrap it up. I think we had a good show. So a lot of people were mad at Caleb about him not showing up to the press conference, right? And so this is my opinion, and this is what have seen through this season. I feel like Lincoln Riley picks who goes to the press conference, right? And the good example was after the Washington game where he had like 9 guys up there, and I might be over exaggerating, but he had a whole bunch of guys.
Yeah.
And certain times he has certain guys, and Caleb wasn't at like 2 other press conferences, and everybody made a big deal about it. But I think it is a choice by Lincoln Riley. And I'm just going off of what I see. You know what I mean? I think Lincoln says, hey, you're coming to the press conference. Like, you guys are the ones that's doing the press conference. Could be. And if you notice, there are a lot of them are seniors, and so most of them, I'm not saying they're all seniors, but most of the time it's a senior guy up there. I think Lincoln Riley told Caleb not to go to the press conference. And so I could be wrong, but I think we need to back off of him off that, because if you go and look at, and he's not contractually obligated like the NFL. So stop comparing him to NFL guys, because in the NFL, you have to go to the press conference. In college, you don't have to. But I think we're a little bit hard on him about, he didn't show up to the press conference. Well, I just looking at it, and I heard a lot of it. It's past 2 days I've been hearing a lot of it, and I'm like, let me defend my guy. Like, I've been hard on him, but let me defend him. I think that's a Lincoln Riley thing, and I think that was Lincoln Riley's decision to do that, and that's why he did not show up. And I could be wrong.
No, I think that's totally. I think that's totally fair, Fred. I think the piling on of Caleb over the course of this year, has been tough. Obviously, with kind of and I think you and I have sort of steered clear of him, kind of post game and with his family and whatnot, and that's sort of neither here nor there. He's had a tough PR year. I mean, there's no way to swing it, between kind of the body language, some of the things he said in interviews, some of the post game stuff. And I think I would have just and I completely agree with you. I would have just have loved to have seen a little bit more judgment from Lincoln Riley on understanding, hey, my quarterback has had a really tough PR year. Even if I choose for him not to be in this press conference, because it was senior day, right? So you want the seniors to kind of have their shine and all of that. At least kind of come out and say at the beginning of the press conference, look, these are our 9 seniors. It's senior day. It was my decision. No one who wasn't a senior was going to be up here because, there's kind of a natural, given how tough of a PR year he's had, there's sort of a natural thought that, man, is he just kind of bailing on this interview? Here we go again. Is he not wanting to kind of face up to a loss? Does he not want to kind of, sort of be accountable to his teammates? Because I promise you that's the conversations, or at least the initial thoughts the NFL GMs are having. And this is where I think it's on Lincoln to say, hey, you know what? I don't want him to be in an interview, but let me come out and say that and say, hey, we've got our handful of seniors here because it's senior day. Anyone who wasn't a senior, I chose not to bring up here, and so it just kind of ends that conversation. When you make it a little bit ambiguous, that's where, folks can kind of take stories and sort of run with them a little bit.
Speculation and assumption leads to a lot of roads. And then when you think about it, Lincoln Riley has not been great in the press this year. He said a lot of things in the press. You're like, come on, man. Exactly. Are you serious? It makes sense. All things. So, if I'm Lincoln Riley, right, and you really need to self-reflect. If I'm Lincoln Riley, I think I will go up to Seattle and I will sit down with Pete Carroll. I know Pete Carroll separated himself from the university, but it's time for Pete to come back. And I think Lincoln Riley is the one that could bridge that gap. Pete says a lot of good stuff from what he learned between his Jets and Patriots years to when he was out for that long period of time and how he made himself better, right? And so I think they can have a good conversation, and I think he can learn a lot of stuff culturally, media-wise, and I think it could bring Pete back into the fold as far as USC, because USC loves Pete. The fans at least love Pete, you know what I mean? But for sure. I think he can learn a lot of things and become a better coach and put him on the right track. That's just my opinion. I
totally agree with you, Fred. If I was Lincoln Riley, my top 5 phone calls, in this order, I think would be, Pete Carroll, have a conversation with him the way Pete Carroll, to your point, had a conversation with John McKay, right? Mm-hmm. And so, hey, I'm holding the keys to the kingdom here. How do I need to go about being the USC football? What does it mean to be a USC Trojan? Like, what does that mean? What does it mean to be a USC football player? What is that right combination of media savvy and swagger and being able to sort of embed yourself in the downtown Los Angeles area, where all the great players are? What does all of that mean, in terms of how do I balance that? How do I think of that? Second, I think the call he needs to make is to Reggie Bush. Because when we talk about guys who are not, as part of the university as they should be, the fact that I think not having Reggie Bush being a recruiting ambassador, being a symbol for a lot of these younger guys, I think has really hurt this program over the last 5, 7, 8 years. Because I love the fact that Marcus Allen is still on the sidelines, and it's amazing, and he should always be welcome. He's a legend. But the fact that Marcus Allen is still on the sidelines and Reggie Bush isn't is sort of problematic long-term for this program. And so I would call Reggie Bush. Now, obviously, there's a lawsuit going on with the NCAA, and so there could be some gnarly things there. But at some point, Reggie Bush, like the Cold War, has to end, where, Reggie's relationship with USC, I would describe as very cordial in the media, but he's not the way like Leinart is and, kind of wears his USC on his sleeves, or the way Lendale is on Twitter, picking fights with everybody, about how much he loves USC. I think Reggie Bush is really important. I think third, obviously, in terms of this year, the defensive coordinator hire is going to be critical moving forward. Fourth is I think he needs to hire a PR coach to our points about interviews and whatnot. And then fifth, I think he's going to need to call a special teams coach, because I think what it has shown is you can't just go and expect the special teams to do their thing. We've seen it with the missed field goals. We've seen it with, the lack of kind of confidence in terms of when to bring balls out on kickoffs, what to do on kind of punt returns. There's been some kind of moments of athletic greatness from Zachariah Branch because he's such a great athlete, but you can see kind of systematically there is a challenge there. So those would be my 5 phone calls if I were Lincoln Riley here. I know he's talked a lot about this week, lots going on in the last 48 hours. I'm hoping, those 5 phone calls are somewhere on that list.
Yeah, I'm gonna reach out to Ryan, see if he has a press conference on Thursday. But yeah, that's where we all leave it up. Jamal, we had another good one.
Yes, sir.
When
do we not, Fred? When
do
we not?
I hope we get some Paul Finebaum fans because I love to go in with those people.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my goodness,
definitely. But it's been great. One thing I will leave you with, Jamal, is this: Chip needs to stay. Chip needs to stay.
We had a conversation in detail about Fred, this Victory Bell, podcast that didn't that happened, but we couldn't sort of post it. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of when the Dream Team in '92 talked about that Monte
scrimmage.
Carlo game, the scrimmage that was the greatest game ever produced, and we're all here. And we got USC memorabilia on one side of the lounge. We got UCLA memorabilia on the other side of the lounge. And we're just kind of going back and forth. So much fun for an hour and 25 minutes. And the fact that we couldn't kind of get that up is a crime. But it creates the mystique. Fred, that was our Monte Carlo. And Chip was brought up, Lincoln, Caleb, the whole shooting match, So
the crazy that's
a story for another day. Huh?
The crazy part about that was I was the one defending Chip, and Will was the one saying Chip needs to go. I'm like, you guys, stop. So that's the crazy part. But yeah, Chip needs to stay. Keep Chip. Let Chip cook. Good deal. Hey, Jamal, appreciate you. We'll get back together on Thursday. If you guys want to get into fantasy betting, you want to pick some guys on Thursday, go to underdogfantasy.com or go to any app store, Google Play.
Fred, that's a bold move that we're gonna go on Thanksgiving night. Oh my goodness!
Oh, I forgot about Thanksgiving. Thank you for catching that. We'll have one show this week. Happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving, everybody. Hope you guys enjoy all your time with your family. If you want some money to help you get some turkey, go to Underdog Fantasy. You get to pick between 2 to 4 players, and we'll match up to $100. Put in promo code USCLAFB and get that going. Happy Thanksgiving. I'm so sorry, you guys. I apologize. That's so rude of me. My wife will kill me right now. She's a total holiday person. I'm gonna tell you a great story when we log off. It's a great story. It happened on Christmas, but happy Thanksgiving. We appreciate you all, you guys. Great year. We had a great year with you guys, and we really appreciate it. And the year's not over. We got a bowl game. We're still going to keep this thing floating. We're going to make it through all season. Jamal, I appreciate you for having this conversation.
Likewise, Fred. Absolutely. And what a tremendous year, Fred, you've had as the host, as the Reggie Jackson of Salute to Troy. Reggie Jackson, the famous line, Fred. He's the straw that stirs the drink. And that's what you are. And, happy holidays to you and your family, and happy holidays and Thanksgiving to all of our fans and our viewers. Keep coming. Be hard on us. And we're going to keep telling the truth. So, much love to everyone.
Yep. Thank you. We appreciate you. Like we said, we appreciate you, all you guys. And we would not be able to do this without you guys. And it was truly true. One thing is just be respectful and keep up with the comments. It doesn't offend us. Just be respectful. You know the line. We set the line, but you can talk bad about us as much as you want. We'll come back and defend ourselves. You guys, this has been the Bet Online Salute to Troy podcast. You know how it goes. Live free, fight on.